Hi, my name's Lachlan Clossy. I'm the National Tertiary Education Union ACT Division Secretary. This short video is because ANU has recently announced Renew ANU, which is a plan basically to reshape the ANU, but in the process, to cut jobs and to also save $250 million in expenditure, including removing $100 million of staff expenditure by the start of 2026. In this short video, we're going to go through ANU's finances, and we're going to go through the things that the Vice Chancellor and Senior Executive aren't telling you about the potential ramifications of Renew ANU. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is the amount that ANU is trying to cut. So they've said $250 million in expenditure by the start of 2026, 150 from non-salary expenditure and 100 from salary expenditure. That's an annual figure, so they're trying to remove that from their annual staff expenditure. By contrast, if we go back to the ANU recovery plan, we know that staff voted very narrowly to defer pay. ANU claimed that that saved $13.5 million, and that saved up to 90 positions. So you can start to get a sense that this is going to be concerning in terms of the number of positions. We've gone through ANU's annual report from 2023. We've found that ANU's staff expenditure for 2023 in total was almost $817 million. Again, if you're taking $100 million out of that, that's a fair chunk, 12.24% to be exact. And then we've tried to apply that to the number of positions that could equate to. Here's the shocking bit. Basically, based on ANU's full-time equivalent positions, so if we use FTE in this presentation, it refers to full-time equivalent positions. There are 5,214 full-time equivalent positions at ANU. Now, a full-time equivalent position can be, for example, one staff member employed full-time. It can be two staff members that are both employed on a 0.5 fraction, making up one full FTE as a fraction. And it also puts together a lot of casual work as well. So the full-time equivalent is not a headcount number, it's the number of total full-time equivalent positions. So looking at that number of full-time equivalent positions and then applying that reduction of 12.24% to those positions, that means that ANU would need to cut 638 FTE, so 638 full-time equivalent positions, in order to save $100 million. Now, obviously, there are some assumptions built in there. If you're cutting full-time equivalent positions of lower paid staff, for example, you would need to cut more. If you're cutting full-time equivalent positions of higher paid staff, higher than the average, then you would need to cut less. And that also is really just looking at the relationship between staff expenditure and full-time equivalent positions. If there are other measures that ANU is considering to reduce staff expenditure, like basically trying to address leave liability, then that could impact that outcome. But really looking at that just as a percentage in reduction of staff expenditure, and then applying the same reduction in percentage to full-time equivalent positions, we're looking at 638 full-time equivalent positions, which is quite shocking. And frankly, that's not something that the Vice Chancellor and Senior Executive have been upfront about. Looking at the staffing levels at ANU, you can see there has been an increase in recent years. It has increased to levels that are above pre-COVID levels. So you can see from 2019, it goes from 4,800. It went up in 2020 to a bit over 5,100. A significant drop, obviously coinciding with COVID and the ANU recovery plan. But since then, these jobs have been increasing steadily and, in fact, by a large portion until we get 5,214 full-time equivalent positions in 2023. This data is all publicly available from the Department of Education's website in the Higher Education Staffing Statistics. So if we're going through ANU's annual report, the other concerning things that emerge from there, from our point of view, is where that staff expenditure is actually being spent. So we have an unusual number of highly paid staff at ANU. So if we're putting together the 266 people who are listed as either ANU Council, key management personnel, senior executive, or other highly paid staff, and that definition for the last one is above $240,000 remuneration, they receive collectively a total of $80.1 million in remuneration. Or put another way, 4% of staff get 9.8%, almost 10% of staff expenditure. Going through the figures available in the annual report in more detail, there are 82 people in there who receive 320,000 or more in remuneration. That's up from 76 the previous year. Or there are 14 people that earn $500,000 or more in remuneration, and that's up from 12 in the previous year. So the question that's come up a lot, and I guess that's what, in part, what that last slide is speaking to is ANU top heavy? Does ANU have a problem in terms of the number of highly remunerated management, senior executive, other positions? And this table shows ANU's position relative to the other group of 8 universities. So what we can see there is that ANU is 4th in the group of 8 in terms of executive positions, over $500,000 in remuneration. Now, you might notice that's different. So the other 3 in the slide that would take it to 14 are in the other highly paid staff category, but in terms of executive, it's 11. Now, you can see that in comparison to the 10 at the University of Sydney, 12 at UQ, Monash and University of Melbourne have a little bit more. And you can see that some of the other universities, for example, University of Adelaide, University of Western Australia, have fewer. But the thing to note about the other universities that are around the point in the table where ANU are, is that ANU has significantly less students. That data comes from the Times Higher Education rankings, which has statistics attached to it, and that's come out relatively recently. And the staff FTE is obviously significantly down as well. So some of these universities have close to double the amount of staff ANU have, but similar numbers of executives with over $500,000 remuneration. And obviously, yeah, a third of the students. Now, ANU's mission, they might say that it is slightly different in terms of a focus on research, but still, it seems out of whack compared to comparable universities in the group of 8. The other thing we have is the WGEA report. So WGEA is the Workplace Gender Equality Agency. And this is the best source of data we have for headcount staff data rather than full-time equivalent staff data. And that shows us that there has been an increase in staff. It's a point in time thing, and I think it's from March from memory. But the 2024 figures show that there has been an increase in staff by headcount at ANU. That's gone up 4.2%, but it does disaggregate staff into different categories. And if we look at the managers category in the WGEA statistics, that shows that managers have gone up in a headcount sense by 16.7%. So managers now make up 9.8% of staff by headcount, and you can see that's higher than previous years. So that leads to questions from our membership in terms of where's this staff expenditure going? Are you looking in the right places for savings? So ANU changes and job cuts. What ANU have said, what they've been upfront about, is that there'll be no more change plans for colleges in 2024. We believe they've chosen their words very carefully. So that leads us to have a great deal of concern for areas of ANU that are not contained within the colleges. But it also means that we have concern about the colleges next year and beyond as well, because quite simply, as we've seen in the previous slides, $100 million in savings, 50 announced job cuts, that's not going to cut it in terms of achieving ANU's goals. So we're certainly calling on the Vice-Chancellor and Senior Executive to be upfront about exactly how many jobs they see being cut as part of Renew ANU. Our estimate is 638 FTE. We'd love to hear what their estimate is. With this sort of scale, there are open questions about whether ANU should pursue voluntary redundancies. At this stage, they've said they're not going to consider voluntary redundancies. We're looking into whether that would actually breach their obligations under the enterprise agreement in terms of having forced redundancies as a last resort. But at the same time, we'd invite you to get in touch with us if voluntary redundancy is something you're interested in. For example, in the ANU recovery plan, we did have some success with job swaps and those sorts of things. We don't want to see a situation where the people that want to stay are forced to go, and the people that would like to go are forced to stay. So that's something we want to look into more. The other question we have is who's accountable for the $140 million budget blowout? How do you turn a $60 million deficit into a $200 million deficit with no transparency, no accountability, and no consequences? So the question we have is who's accountable for that mismanagement? Is it Julie Bishop as the Chancellor and effectively chair of the board, which, in a university context is obviously ANU Council? Julie Bishop has been there for some time and overseen the governance of the university in that sense. Is it the Vice Chancellor? We know Genevieve Bell obviously started at the start of this year, but, looking almost a year in the job now, is there responsibility there? But someone needs to be held accountable for this position that the ANU has got itself into. And also the last question, which my head is sort of obscuring, is what was the point of the ANU recovery plan? So we know there was about $80 million paid out in redundancies, and the idea was meant to be that would actually take money away from that ongoing staff expenditure. We've seen staffing numbers increase since the ANU recovery plan. So many staff are asking us, what was the point? Wasn't this meant to prevent exactly the situation we're in now? How has it come to this, that those redundancies didn't actually achieve the structural reform that ANU set out to do? And again, who's accountable for that? Okay, so moving on, what do we do from here? There are a couple of things, and we invite you to get in touch with us if you'd like more detail on this. I'm only going to go through it quickly. Consultation. At the moment, there are 2 change plans out. There may well be more in the future. We encourage staff to contribute to that consultation, which you can do in 2 ways. The NTEU will be making collective submissions to consultation. We'd love to hear your thoughts about what we should include. We also know that there are many staff who would rather contribute to that consultation in a de-identified sense. So if you want to do that, you can do that through the NTEU as well. The other thing is we'd encourage staff, certainly, if you're willing to put your name to feedback and consultation, do make individual submissions as well. So basically, we want ANU to hear from as many staff as possible about the potential implications for them through the consultation process. We'll be having a rally. So this is coming up on Wednesday, the 16th of October at 12 p.m. So we'll be meeting in Canberra. Everyone is welcome, whether you're an NTEU member or yet to join. We invite all ANU staff, we invite all ANU students, and we invite everyone from the broader community. And we'll be making it pretty clear at this rally that this is our ANU. ANU belongs to the staff, the students, and the broader community that it serves, rather than vice chancellors, chancellors, and senior executives. So we'll be going to stand up for the university, and we'll be going there to speak out against Renew ANU and the damage that could potentially do to people's livelihoods and to the university itself. And finally, if you're not yet a union member, we're stronger together. We're gearing up for a big pushback against these potential changes. 638 FTE coming out of ANU would do untold damage to the university and to its mission. We want to push back against that, but we need your help. We're much more effective when we're working together and doing it collectively. So we encourage you, if you're not yet a member of the NTEU and you work at the ANU, now is the time to join. It's quick and it's easy. You can go to the website that you can see above, nteu.au join. But there's seriously never been a better time. Your colleagues need you on board for the challenges ahead. Okay, I'll leave it there, but if you've got further questions, please feel free to email us at anu@nteu.org.au. Thank you very much.